This is the Rest of Everest video podcast, an almost unabridged expedition experience. Episode 29, Waiting Out the Weather.
Hey,
Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Rest of Everest video podcast. I'm Jon Miller. Just want to welcome everyone who has recently joined us. There's been a lot of exposure for the podcast recently, so I want to say hello to everyone. Please remember to start at episode 0 and work your way forward. You'll get a lot more out of this podcast. If you have any difficulty downloading the episodes in iTunes, please give me an email. Shoot me an email. I will give you a solution really quick to help solve that problem you may be having. And also, don't forget that you can always find the episodes on my website and download them from the website, therestofeverest.com. Real quick, I want to say that the song playing underneath me is Wendy Wu. The song is called Surprise Me from the album Gonna Wear Red. And, check out Wendy Wu's website, www.wendy, W-E-N-D-Y, Wu, spelled W-O-O.com, and buy her albums. Please support Wendy. She supports us. So check that out. And now let's head back up to base camp and check in with Ben. Here we go. Again, like I've said in one of the past, I think last week's episode, you'll see this shot a few more times. Just use it as an establishing shot for all of you. So it's one of the only shots I have of the tent, the dome itself, in this windstorm, since it was rather uncomfortable to be outside most of the time.
You go through an emotional, it's an emotional roller coaster. Because part of the time you're thinking, this is Everest, am I going to die? When I get above 25,000 feet like I already have, am I going to feel as sharp mentally as I did? Am I going to be physically capable of walking another 4,000 feet? And you start to think about things. You start to think about, is this a foolish idea? Is this a great idea? What's the point in being here? And you question everything. You question your mortality, you question your intentions, you question your reasons and everything for being here. But at the same time, that's what it's like. It's an extreme environment where everything changes. Everything from the language to the food to the sunshine to the clouds to the ground you walk on. Everything changes, and that's a very complex problem, because amidst all these changes you have to remain consistent. Your personality, who you are, and what you believe, you don't change, because you have to remain confident. And that's what makes it difficult, I think, sometimes, is that you spend a lot of time not doing anything and you begin to wonder, will I make it? Will I not? And what does that mean? Does that mean I live through it, or does that mean I make the top? Maybe it just means that, you walk away at some point and say, fine. And I think that's, I'm prepared for any of those statements.
Is there anything in particular that happened to you up there that's making you worried?
No. I did fine. There's nothing. There's no reason for me to question my ability one bit. But you just do. You think about it. Because you know that in the next 10 days, this could be it. And it can spell so many different things. And so that's what makes it such an enterprising endeavor, in that there are an infinite number of possibilities, but there's only one or two that will work. And you've got to get one or two instead of the thousands that can possibly occur. So you're taking a huge gamble. And most people would rather gamble with their money, with their time, but this is one that demands, at some point, you consider your life. And do you either value it or you don't? Or Everest, values it or it doesn't. Maybe I get to the top and I still think, like I do now, that wasn't the greatest part of the trip. It won't be. I think it'd be great. I think it'd be an epiphany. It'd be a great moment, but I think it'd be just like the day I got the money to come here. I think it'd be like the first time I climbed a mountain that led here. I think it'd be like many different steps along the way that were amazing. And that's the point, is that for me, this was point B from A, and everything that went in between was huge. And so I wonder if I make the top, if the top is going to feel quite like anything else. The top is something that, if I get there, it'll be emotional, and I'll know that. But, I'm the kind of person who stops everything and then focuses on, do I have the time to be thinking about whether or not this is the summit? Or should I really be thinking about, okay, I got to do these things, check these things on my body, make sure these things are okay, and then get down. And more than likely, it's probably going to be the latter.
Okay, last thing. There's a bunch of veterans here who've never stood on the top. They've been here like 5, 6 times. What do you think about if you summit? How are you gonna feel knowing that some people will never make it, even if they're the strongest climber in the world?
I know people who've been here 5 times, and I've been sitting across the table from asking for advice. They've summited mountains I've tried to climb, and I haven't summited. But if I summit, first time here, nice. Then I'll know it was the Pringles.
It was the Pringles.
Always got an expedition with Pringles.
Yeah.
They're worth their weight in gold.
Yeah. Should I pop the top? We'll see if I can stop. No. That's funny. You want me to get back in the shot?
You're okay.
Alright, yeah, so if I get to the top first time, then I actually answered an email the other day to a guy named Doug in Atlanta. And Doug's like, wow, it's going to be so amazing to meet you one day and to know how high you've been and know that you're going to be even higher. And that's cool because there's someone who recognizes the feat of how hard it is to get up there. But it's like if I get on top and I meet this guy, Doug, all I'm going to have to say is, you know what? I'm the luckiest man that I know. Because I know a lot of people who've gotten here in a lot of various ways. But I realize it will be the luckiest day of my life. That's to get to the top of this mountain truly means that everything lined up and worked out, and that of thousands of things that needed to go right, every single one of them did. And if that happens, then I have no excuse but to, I think in a lot of ways, just continue to live my life the way I have. Because maybe it means that I'm on to something. Maybe it means I'm just a lucky schmo, but maybe it means I'm on to something. Either way, I should appreciate that because it's a gift.
But one of the things that had to go right was weather, and it did not go well for a week here. This is not sped up. This is some of the wind that came through base camp, and it was just this huge dust cloud. I apologize, this footage is overexposed here, but it's the raw footage. You're seeing the stuff that obviously would not make it into the film here. But so I enjoyed putting that interview with Ben in there just because there is a mortality aspect with Everest, with any of these big mountains, and it is something that you have to wrestle with, and it is something you're going to have to make an ultimate decision at some point. Is it worth risking anything to make the summit? You do get to a position where you might have to make that difficult decision. Some people make the decision and they don't come down, and some people make the difficult decision and they live to tell the tale another day. So that is part of Everest. It's certainly not the only aspect of Everest. And I think you're starting to get an idea of that if you've watched all the episodes, that there's more to Everest than Everest itself. But here, the big story of the day was the wind. And we had all of these mini tornadoes, these little cyclones everywhere. And one of the expeditions we'll hear more about later on, the Royal Navy, Royal Marines team, they had tents that were blown nearly a kilometer down the moraine at base camp. It was pretty impressive. But they had one of their cooks, a Tibetan woman, a teenager. She ran after their equipment and grabbed it. It was pretty impressive. So we'll hear more about that later. But there wasn't a whole lot to do but stay inside. And that fellow in the orange jacket there is Richard. Richard is a good friend of mine, and you'll hear from Richard. He's going to hopefully join us. I hope. It's been a while since we've talked, but hopefully he'll join us in some future episodes. There's a lot more footage of him. There's Bertrand. Looking sort of weather-worn. Mostly with these looks on these people's faces there is some concern, but primarily at this point it's probably just sheer boredom. There's Denis. He's a member of another French expedition that we became friends with.
Stop here.
Yes.
How much? Yes, so big money. Tomorrow I write you a check for $500,000.
Dima right there is talking to Andre, the Belgian climber sitting next to him, the older fellow, and Andre got some frostbite, and Dima was pleading with him to not climb anymore, to say the trip was over and go home, because if he was to try to climb, he might get into some real trouble.
You scared? You scared of the camera? Is that what it is? There's so many people, I wanted to get everyone on tape.
So Dima was there to change some dressings on Andre's frostbite.
Okay. Are still there, or if they are? Okay.
So here they're talking about the condition of the tents up on the North Col, and if things blew away.
My sleeping bags and gloves and everything in the North Col.
Gone. Finished. So, what do you do?
Did you find it in Tingri?
Yeah, you black market in Kathmandu next week.
In Kathmandu, you find it some tents, some sleeping bags.
I am very lucky because Bertrand is the same eye like me.
That's a good job.
It's true.
Because I don't know, you came here and his cook.
Ashok told me, but I was in ABC yesterday, came down. I was going to see you tomorrow.
Yeah, and
Who told you?
I came to his kitchen because I'm coming his kitchen every day.
Ram told you.
Yes, and Ram.
Yes?
When I came,
So that Sherpa man that Bertrand was talking to, he was a guide for another expedition. Can't quite remember which one. I'm sure I should remember, but I don't right now. But in any case, they were friends. They knew each other, and they stumbled across each other at base camp there. And so that was one of the nice things, that you're out in the middle of nowhere, at least theoretically nowhere, but it's a small community. That these climbers are a fairly small community of people spread around the world who all descend on these mountains. And so chances are you're going to find someone you know there. So it's interesting to get to these places and look around, because you never know who you're going to stumble across. So that's always really nice. So, stumble across me. You guys send me some emails. Let me know if you have any questions about the show. Let me know what you think. I really enjoy hearing from everyone. Gotten a lot of emails from Switzerland recently. So I want to say hello to all my viewers in Switzerland. Hey, everyone. And, again, I try to answer every email as soon as I get it. Sometimes I'm working on something and I have to wait a few hours, but primarily I get back to people right away. So yeah, send me some emails. Tell me what you think. So next week we are going to watch Ben kind of make some calls on his family for some support, and get some spiritual support from the Rambuk Monastery. So stay tuned for that, and we'll join you next time. The Rest of Everest is downloaded all over the world every week. If you enjoy watching and would like to show your support, then take a look at my website. Aside from having lots of additional blog entries from the expedition updated every week, there's this little donation button on every page. Now, many of you have pressed that button, and your generous contributions are helping to cover my hosting fees. If you haven't donated but would like to, then just contribute any amount. In return, I'll give you access to the video and audio dispatches I sent out while we were actually at Everest. It's pretty interesting stuff. Contribute $25 or more, and I'll even throw in an iPod-compatible version of the film Everest: The Other Side. That's the project the entire podcast here is based on. As always, our announcer is Marlon May, and our music is provided by Wendy Wu. Check her out at wendywu.com. Thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching The Rest of Everest. For more information on the expedition, please visit therestofeverest.com.